Hello, and welcome to Not Very Scary Stories. This episode will have two stories from the internet, so be sure to leave a sub, follow, or whatever you can on whatever platform you're on. Also, be sure to leave a review so people will know to listen in as well. I'd like to thank you guys for the support thus far on all the platforms you can find us on, including YouTube. I'd also like to remind everyone that if you have any scary stories or experiences you'd like to share, email me at notveryscaryent@gmail.com and tell me how you'd like to be credited. I'm Zenith Darksky, and I'll be your host tonight. Enjoy. This first story is called Chester the Dark One, posted by u/Street Steez. It all started in the summer of 2017. Me and my friend had moved into a 3-bedroom apartment, and everything seemed fine for the first month until I started seeing shadows flicker out of the corner of my eye. It didn't bother me at first until the night terrors started. The shadow thing would just be standing over me, tormenting me, morphing and twisting its body into horrific formations. After this, it escalated. It started showing itself in full-body apparitions to me and my friend. It would stand over my friend's bed till he couldn't stand it anymore, and my friend would come to my room and ask if he could stay in there. Now, my friend is a former Marine, so nothing phases this man. One day we were all chilling in the living room when we heard someone banging on the door yelling, "Where is Chester? Where is my son? I know he's here. I'll call the police!" We answered the door, and a very worn down and old-looking woman with wild eyes was screaming that phrase over and over until our other friends started yelling at her until she left. We then named it Chester. Chester would begin to move things, flicker the lights, and shake the room at the most inconvenient and terrifying times, like the shower. The final straw for me was the clawing at my door. At night, it would scrape and scrape and scrape until I would scream and run towards the door, and nothing would be there until the last time, where it towered over me like a behemoth. If I even hear a cat scratching at the door, I immediately get sent into a panic attack, and that's why I don't have one now. I would leave the apartment, but the torment for my friend wouldn't end. He had moved back in with his parents, and I was with my grandparents. We lived fairly close. He texted me and asked me to come over. I found him on his porch, wild-eyed, holding his gun. And then I heard the strangest wails all popping off from different places in the neighborhood. He motioned me to come inside. I asked him, "What was that?" And he looked at me and said, "So you can hear it too." I was like, yeah, that's not something you just don't hear. It's really loud." And he said, "Then why aren't the neighbors reacting?" I went quiet, and he then said, "He won't let me sleep, bro. He's always there, screaming right as I fall asleep. Please stay here and watch over me till I fall asleep." I, of course, obliged. I had to listen to the wails till the sunrise. It would then, in 2020, target my brother after he challenged Chester, mocked him, and dismissed him. For months, my brother was barely getting sleep. And when he did, he was only night terrors. Paranoid and too scared to be in his apartment at night. Then, this year of 2021, it targeted my grandmother. I had moved out and she didn't understand what was going on with this thing towering over her. She called for me, but obviously I wasn't there. She is fine, and it hasn't bothered her since. I've gathered more information on Chester from my friend, and as it turns out, more happened in the apartment than I know. Apparently, he had a full-blown conversation that lasted 3 hours with Chester, which involved multiple hallucinations, including showing him a giant pile of money that he could pick up, touch, and feel, only to disappear in his hands, tormenting him with visions and laughter. This next story is a selection of ghostly paranormal experiences posted by u/Travis Charles Lama. I will preface this by saying that I grew up in a very spiritual family. My mom, and especially, had tons of stories about ghosts and spirits that she'd encountered in her life. When I was around 7 years old, my family moved into a new house. From the get-go, my mom said there was a spirit in the house, but she was friendly. It was a little old lady called Elsie. If you looked up our address online, it said that the previous tenant was named Elsie. Mom was never afraid and was adamant that Elsie was looking out for her, as my mom was diagnosed with cancer a few months after the move. On nights where my stepdad had gone out for drinks with his friend and all of us children were asleep, Mom would see a shadow pause by her doorframe before disappearing, almost as if Elsie was looking in to check on her. I remember a specific time where my family went on holiday and my uncle was house sitting as we had 2 dogs. He called my mom in an obvious panic, claiming that there was a little old woman at the top of the stairs, calling his name. My mom very calmly told him that it was just Elsie, she was harmless, but if he was really worried, to carry one of my mom's crystals in his pocket and politely ask Elsie to leave him alone. As far as I'm aware, he wasn't bothered by her again. My mom had a photo of her grandfather displayed on our landing, and told us that if we ever lost anything, we just needed to go to the photograph and ask great-granddad for help finding the missing item. It didn't matter if you'd been searching for your lost item for days. Without fail, asking granddad would always result in you finding the thing in the next half hour, even if you'd already looked everywhere. My mom died of her cancer in 2011. When I was just 13, since then, I've felt her presence around me in many different situations. I never see her, but I felt her sitting on the end of my bed, just like she would when she was alive and I was unwell as a child. I don't think this counts as a ghost story, but she leaves me feathers and other signs when I need a little encouragement. On the day of my graduation from university, I was upset as she was missing a day she'd always said she was massively looking forward to. As I walked out of the ceremony, a feather landed on top of my graduation cap. If I'm upset, or sometimes just talking about her, lights will flicker and sometimes blow out entirely. As far as actual ghostly sightings go, my current house is haunted by a ghost that we've called Clive. I've read somewhere that you shouldn't name ghosts as you can give them more power, but Clive was a joke name that stuck. Since moving in, myself and my sisters have all heard footsteps from empty rooms. My youngest sister has had more than one friend stay over who has woken up in the middle of the night and been adamant that a tall man has been standing in a corner staring at them. Whenever this has happened, I should explain that we haven't mentioned anything about Clive to these people. I'm the only person who lives here that has seen Clive with my own eyes. On 2 occasions, I've woken up to someone calling my name and seen a tall man walking from one end of my bedroom to the other before disappearing. On another occasion, I was sitting in my back garden having a cigarette. Our back door is glass and you can see through the living room. Down the hallway, the door to the kitchen is in the hallway, all the way to the front door. I was looking into the house and saw a tall man walk from the bottom of my stairs through the hallway and into the kitchen. I assumed it was my then boyfriend, so when I'd finished my cigarette, I went to the kitchen expecting to see him there, but it was empty. My boyfriend was in my bedroom upstairs and was adamant that he'd been there the whole time and hadn't been downstairs. Luckily, I never felt afraid or uncomfortable when it comes to Clive, but I have had to ask spirits to leave a couple of times as they scare my cat. It's just a few of my and my mom's experiences. Stay safe and good vibes.